fighting for, getting ready for June 24th. Started planning it, doing everything we can to get ready for the fight.
Where do you feel like your biggest strengths are? Do you feel like it is with your hands? Do you feel like it's your wrestling?
I can take you down or I can stand on my feet. I like being on my feet because knockouts is what people remember, and I definitely want to be known as knocking people out for sure. But I can take you down if I want to.
I'm sure you can take me down.
And it's kind of a broad question, but I can talk about that a little bit. Do you consider yourself a fighter, or are you a wrestler, or are you a wrestler that fights? Like what do you think you are?
Well, right now I'm a wrestler. Once I have my first fight, like professional fight, then I'll be considered a fighter. But I'm still 0-0. I've had amateur fights, but as a professional, I need to make that debut, and I'll be a fighter.
Do you want to be marketed like that new breed though of guys, you know, who has kind of trained everything as a young man and coming up? Do you feel like that's you? Do you feel like you fit that description, that mold?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I fit that description for sure because, I mean, nowadays MMA is changing. You get guys like me that started wrestling, started boxing, doing MMA. By the time you're 20 years old, you've acquired all these skill sets, and I feel like I'm like the first generation to really do that. Like now, from 15 years from now, it's gonna be crazy. You're gonna get guys that have been 4 years old starting to learn how to like box and wrestle, and it's gonna be nuts. The sport of MMA is evolving so much, and which it should. And anything, it always evolves.
When did you see this? When did you envision this? That this was going to be what you wanted to do in life?
Early young age. When I was like 8, 9 years old, I started boxing. I was obsessed with boxing. Like, I'd watch all the 24/7s, the pay-per-views, the press conferences, and like that's what I want to do. I want to be a fighter and fight on the big stages. And I knew that's what I was going to do as a professional. I couldn't see myself being like a doctor, or nurse, or anything like that. I was like, my profession is going to be a professional fighter, and I'm going to get there.
Did you have to convince your parents? Did they push you to it, or were you the driving force behind this idea?
No, actually, I wanted to be fun. My parents, my dad actually like loves motorcycles. He wanted me to be like a motorcycle rider. And I was doing it for a little bit, but then I was like, I don't like this. I want to go back to wrestling and boxing. So I told my mom, no, I don't want to hurt Dad's feelings, but I want to be a fighter. And my parents have always been open-minded, and like, we may not like fighting, but we support you in anything you want to do. So being able to just like do what you want to do and not have like pushback from your parents just made it so much better for me.
Yeah. Did you feel like you're still very young, obviously?
Yeah.
But does it feel like it's taken a long time to get to this point? You've been competing for many, many years. I mean, does it feel like a long journey, or is it here you are all of a sudden?
Yeah, it's like a long journey, but at the end of the day, this is like just the beginning. There's so much work that has been put into it as a kid. So many trips, so many tournaments, but it's all paid off, and now I'm here, and it's just the beginning of this career. And now all that time that was put in the boxing club and wrestling into like MMA, it's like now I'm here. So in reality, it's been long, but now it's just the beginning.
Is it an easier transition for you? You were a boxer, but you also did the wrestling. Do you think that makes the MMA transition easier for you as opposed if you were just only a boxer and you were making that transition to MMA? Is it easier for you?
Absolutely, 100%. Like having a wrestling base is like, I believe, the biggest thing in MMA. Being a boxer is great too, but if I had to pick one, it'd be in MMA. It'd be having the skill set of a wrestler. Wrestling, to be able to be a really good wrestler, it takes a long time. Like, you're not going to be a good wrestler like at 16, 17. You got to start like 4 or 5 years old to be at the highest level. So I'm lucky. I'm grateful that I started really young and I acquired the wrestling skill set early, and then started boxing because I just put the icing on the cake to really be able to learn how to throw a punch. Because at the end of the day, some people don't really. It's hard to learn boxing when you're older, so I'm lucky I got to start early.
Do you feel that your stand-up is greater than some of the MMA fighters you've been sparring with, or so to speak? My stand-up, I feel, is better than most MMA fighters out there, and I can see it through sparring, and
being around the best boxers, I got to spar them, and then when you go into sparring MMA, this hand speed is totally different. So very thankful that I have that.
Or any names in particular, boxers or?
Yeah, I mean, I'm out wild card a lot, so I'm sparring a lot of good boxers there. You guys know there's always good boxers there, so yeah.
Who is your inspiration as a boxer and as well as a wrestler?
As a wrestler?
Both of them.
Okay, yeah. Boxer, I've had so many. There's so many good guys. Like I really loved Mayweather, Canelo, Sugar Ray Robinson. There's so many guys that I watched over the years. Pacquiao, like all the great guys. I don't really have one particular guy, but as a wrestler, oh man, that's a tough one too. There's a guy you guys probably won't know, but his name's Albert Steve. He has like he's an Olympic champion in 2004, and I like it because of his style. The way he wrestles, like go forward and snap and get the guy tired, and that's how I usually would base my wrestling off of him. So I mean him, but there's a lot of good guys in the U.S. I really love Karl Schneider. He's an Olympic champion this year. He's like the youngest Olympic champ. His whole approach to the game is like he's always evolving. Being around him, Karl Schneider, he loves wrestling. He's always willing to learn, and he's willing to take on any challenge that there is, and I really respect him.
Can you describe the zeal that you have knowing that you have a big fight coming up?
Sorry, say that again?
The zeal that you have, how would you, on a scale of 1 to 10, experience it?
Yeah, well, right now I'm just like trying to just kind of relax a little bit, like I don't want to get too pumped up right now, but as the fight goes on, I'm starting to, feel the little anxiety, but that's all part of the sport, and I'm glad I get to just feel it now and get experience.
Who's your inspiration in life overall? Who inspires you the most?
Honestly, it's kind of crazy. I mean, my mom and dad have actually played a really big role in my life. My dad is willing to do whatever he can to get me in this position. I mean, when I decided to do MMA, he quit his job to be with me 24/7 to help me, and that means a lot to me. My mom works; she's an RN. She works a bunch of 12-hour shifts, and I think that's where I get a lot of my work ethic from. And she just loves the grind. My dad's always been open-minded to help me go wherever I need to be. So I think my parents, for sure.
How is your progress?
I was going to say, Aaron, so you're 20 years old.
Yeah.
I'm sure you get a lot of, hey, don't you want to just be like a regular 20-year-old? I know you got a passion for this, but what do you say to them when they say, you don't want to just have a normal day like everyone else?
I'm like, when I look at the things that I've experienced, traveling the world, being here, being able to fight in Madison Square Garden, my life is great. I mean, I wouldn't change it for anybody. To be just be a regular 20-year-old, my life's good. Yeah, my life is really good. That's what I have to say.
Aaron, you did both boxing and wrestling as a kid. Why did you kind of go the wrestling route as opposed to stick with the boxing?
Yeah, I mean, I was getting close to high school, so I knew I always wanted to wrestle in high school. So I was as I was approaching it, I was like, I want to be able to wrestle. So I just took a different path in the wrestling and did 1 year there. I tried to go to the boxing club as much as I can, but when I started wrestling international, it was too difficult. But it was definitely a tough decision with wrestling and boxing because I love boxing. It's my passion. I love it. But I'm glad I'm happy the way everything worked out.
You obviously your base is wrestling,
Yeah.
But you do have the boxing background. So when you fight, what do you feel your kind of go-to is going to be? Do you think you're going to go to the wrestling? You're going to just rely on the boxing to begin with? How do you think that's going to play out?
Well, the whole goal right now is to be just well-rounded everywhere. But I would love to be on my feet. I mean, I've been saying that knockouts are what people remember. And if the knockouts there are great, but it's a fight, so much stuff can happen. So we'll just have to see how it all plays out. But I love being on my feet. That's where I feel the best.
What was the first hard learned lesson converting into MMA? What was the lesson that you learned?
Yeah.
It is hard, you can't just walk in and be an MMA fighter.
Yeah. There's been a lot. I mean, there's being able to transition your takedowns from into fighting, being on the ground. There's so many. The kicks, obviously, because wrestling and boxing is just one, but then there's kicks involved, so that changes up the whole game of jiu-jitsu. I mean, there's been every day. There's always something that I'm thankful to have Bob Cook, and he's really he picks out a bunch of stuff that you're doing wrong, which is really good, because to be the champ of the world, it's the little things that really matter. So there's not one particular thing, there's been a bunch.
And any fights you're looking forward to watching coming up?
Alright, so I guess
Boxing or MMA?
Both. Yeah.
Golovkin and Canelo.
Yeah. How does that play out, do you think?
I think Canelo's gonna. I think I've been saying it for years. Canelo will beat Triple G for sure. I think stylistically, Triple G is a perfect match for Canelo. Like he's a boxer. Like he's engaged in the pocket a lot. And I think that's what Canelo does. Canelo has a hard time against like the Mayweathers, people that kind of run on him, but Triple G isn't gonna do that. So I believe Canelo will. I think he's gonna make it look easy against Triple G. A lot of people think I'm crazy. I have a couple of bets going, so I'm like, just wait, just watch. I've been saying it for years though, like Canelo will beat Triple G.
So you were saying it before, say kind of the last year, that Triple G's maybe not looked as dangerous as he did. Obviously, when people were avoiding him and things like that.
Yeah. Even when Canelo was young, I still thought that Canelo would be Triple G. I think it's perfect style for Canelo. Perfect style.
Do you keep your foot to the pedal the whole time, no matter what you do? Pressure fighter. I mean, you've been training like crazy since you were 8. That's just your life? Is there any concern about burnout? I mean, you've been doing this starting really young.
No. I mean, I've done it for so long, and I enjoy being in practice. I enjoy trying to learn. And this is my life. I mean, as long as you have like a goal and like you're trying to better yourself every day, like whether it be jiu-jitsu, boxing, kickboxing, for me that's fun and that's what I look forward to. Some people like get burned out, but hopefully me, right now I feel good, I'm having a good time, but it may change, you never know. The best thing you can possibly do is just better yourself every day.
Do you know how to back off if you need to? Can you
as I'm getting older, yeah, for sure. And I have my dad's like, okay, you don't need to go to practice this day. Like, if you're feeling it, just relax a little bit. Because I have a hard time with that. I'm like, if I'm not training, I'm like going crazy. I'm like, man, I feel like I'm doing something wrong. But this camp, I mean, in MMA, there's a lot of injuries and stuff, so I really got with a great team. Like, okay, this is when you need to rest, this is when you need to pour it on, but the biggest thing is like recovery for me, because I have a hard time doing that. But to this camp, it's been perfect. I've listened to everything.
Last time we chatted actually was when Bellator announced your signing, and you were talking to some press in the back there. Obviously, it hasn't gone exactly to form. I mean, here you are, you're ready to fight. MSG is tremendous, but you had setbacks, your knee and everything like that. So, was there frustration for you? Like, how did you handle that period? Because it didn't go exactly the way you wanted to. And how do you handle setbacks generally? How have you handled that throughout your competitive career?
And at the end of the day, it's like you hate to lose. Obviously, everybody hates to lose, but at the end of the day, you're at home with your family, have a barbecue, and everything is, you reevaluate where you need to go, what the goal, what the end result is. And like I said, you're going to have some turbulence along the way, but if you surround yourself with those that care about you, you'll get there. So the biggest thing for me is the family. It's like, at the end of the day, you take a loss and it sucks, but I'm not going to lock myself in my room and just be depressed forever. I'm going to be around my family, be happy, and figure out where we need to go next. Because that's part of the game. Like, there's setbacks all the time. Not just in winning or not just winning and losing. Like, practice, there's injuries sometimes. Sometimes you do take a loss. Sometimes fights fall through. So at the end of the day, you just have to stay focused and really figure out what the end result is and keep sailing towards that goal.
The mix the Bellator has of the young prospects, they've been signing 0-0 fighters, so like very young fighters. Was that appealing to you? Was that one of the main reasons why you came here, as opposed to like going off into some smaller promotion, getting some wins? And a lot of people want to go off to the UFC. Why this path for you?
Bellator, I mean, the staff here at Bellator has been treating me great. Scott Coker, when we sat down with Scott and my management team, like I shared my vision and he shared his, and it's like, that's where I want to be. I feel best with Scott Coker. Long term when he took the job, it was like, we're gonna make something big. It's gonna be big. It already is blowing up. Bellator, NYC. I'm gonna make my debut. It's gonna blow up for sure.
Do you have an eye on one of the kids like you coming up? I mean, they've James Gallagher, AJ McKee. Like, these are names in your division.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, James Gallagher. I mean, the fight. I would love to fight him. AJ McKee, actually, him and I are really good friends. I mean, he stayed at my house. Like, it's funny. A lot of people don't know. Like, we've been friends for a while. Like, he used to always spend the night at my house and stuff. So it's kind of crazy to see him progressing because he was always wanted to be a fighter. I wanted to be a fighter, so it's cool. But James Gallagher needs to fight AJ McKee. He needs to stop running his mouth and finally grab his nuts and fight. That's what I have to say about that.
Yes, you do.
Are you, what you just said right now, are you ready to enter that trash talk world yet?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, it fires me up when people for example, James Gallagher says certain things, and he won't take the fight. Like I said, the guy has a bunch of confidence in himself, and I don't blame him. But for example, me and him, if the fight was presented to him to fight me, and his management team and coach said, let's pump the brakes on a little bit. So, I mean, when you're running your mouth, calling out AJ McKee, and then you're not taking the fight, I mean, that's kind of not cool.
What do you think motivated him to kind of put a bullseye on you, so to speak, and
For him not to
for him to talk about you?
Well, he said something about American, the wrestlers and stuff. He's like, he's never even fought an American wrestler. It's like, here you go, the fight was presented, but he's got a smart team and smart management. They'll probably go back to the drawing board and let's pump the brakes a little bit on this one. Our guy's good, but I don't think he's at that level. But like I said, as soon as he gets into title contention, does whatever he needs to do, you might see Aaron Pico at 145 because we'll get a hold of him.
Aaron, you've been working with Sam Calvita and the guy at the training lab, and there's a lot of guys there that compete at multiple weight classes. Juan Archuleta competes at 3 weight classes. TJ's there, also experimenting, maybe going to 125. How feasible is it for you to maybe compete in a couple weight classes, considering Sam has this great science?
Oh man, Sam is great. Sam Calvita is like, he's like a wizard when it comes to his whole goal in life is to make the best athlete on the planet. So since I'm working with him, my conditioning has gone through the roof. My nutrition, my supplementation, everything has gone through the roof. And having him on your side, it makes it a lot easier because I can go 45, 55. There's so much going into it though. Just because you go 155, it takes time for your body to grow. I can make 145, but Sam Calavita's. Come watch a workout with us and you're going to be blown away. It's pretty crazy.
And then obviously, having the wrestling base, and you've been working with Dominic for so long, how important is it for you to really show the hands this time?
Listening to my body. When I'm tired, I taper off, and my body's feeling great, you know what I mean? So, I'm just ready to get it over with now.
How would you describe the zeal of knowing this big fight is coming? How are you sleeping at night? How are you training? How's your adrenaline? Is it at a 10 level or what?
You know what? I think just thinking about the fight, there's been times where, in training that, my coach will be like, okay, turn it down a notch. Because, I get these little flashes of even in sparring, I'll be sparring and then I'll get a glimpse of if I'm fighting him already, and I'll turn it up and then, my guys are like, okay, relax, So at times, it's kind of hard, but because I might be going too hard, you know what I mean? And then I need to taper down a little bit, but it's just a part of that whole excitement. I feed so much off of the pressure and just the magnitude of this fight, you know what I mean? So I'm just pumped all the way around. My body's feeling good. I've been training good. No injuries. My body feels like it's 120%. And I'm fighting at Madison Square Garden, you know what I mean? I'll go from not having a job to fighting at, the biggest event ever, you know what I mean? The biggest venue you can fight at, so.
Describe Madison Square Garden because, like you said, there's going to be a crowd. It's going to be noisy. You said you'd feed off of that, correct? And how will that propel you to a victory?
I just feel like me feeding off all that. It gets me hyped to a point, but I'm also conserved. I'm not going crazy. I think I have enough experience in the sport and enough experience in my career that this is not going to give me adrenaline dump. You know, as far as somebody kind of starting out, not that many fights, this might be too much for them. You know what I mean? Because they might get too excited and then go crazy first round and have that adrenaline dump. You know what I mean? So this is just going to be the right time for me. You know, and it's going to allow me to display my skill on the biggest stage.
What's your DNA that makes you great? If you were to break it down, what would you say? What are the components that says this is what makes me great?
Just from the simple fact that I had ups and downs in my career, you know, and I'm still here.
What's been the biggest up and what's been the lowest down?
The lowest down is what I've lost 4 fights, you know, in a row, you know, and due to, you know, small things. You know, these are not things that I was just walking out of the cage getting hurt, you know what I mean? It was just kind of pure stubbornness, you know, and you know, and just going through all that to the point where anybody knows in the sport, you lose 4, you're kind of like, you're the guy that's like, you know, he doesn't really have nothing going for him right now, you know, at that time. So just to go through that and just the type of heart I got and the type of determination I got in the sport, you know, just to do that and to get to where I'm at now, you know, just shows you.
Describe that utilization of losing as a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block.
Yeah, well, you know, it all goes on what type of fighter you are. You know, there's fighters that can lose and come back stronger, you know, and then there's fighters that can't really shake that, you know, off of them. That you know, this whole MMA game is it's the craziest job. You know what I mean? There's so many ups and downs, there's so many emotions that go in this, and this sport is so mental. Mentally draining, and that's why a lot of people can't survive in the sport, because the mental part of it is taxing, you know, and it takes the right individual to succeed in this, you know, and it's not for everybody, you know, and everybody thinks it's for everybody until they're in it, you know, and they're going through these things, but, you know, at the end of the day, it takes that certain person to get through these things.
Who inspires you as a boxer, and who inspires you as a wrestler, and what techniques do you take for both?
As a wrestler, man, I can't even front. I don't. You're almost there, man. I don't even know any wrestlers that, you know. But in boxing, you know, I looked at all the greats. You know, I looked at Tyson, Holyfield, you know, Foreman, Ali, Floyd, you know, Rockman, you know what I mean, Tua, you know, these were the guys that I was really into, you know what I mean?
You're nervous, like, oh man, like there's so many eyes gonna be on me.
I think his name was Papaya. He was a Mexican guy, but he was real outlandish. Huh?
Pious?
Pious.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Real outlandish, you know, like things like that you know, that I've seen growing up, and I was just like, dude, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I want to be like, you know. So these are the guys that I've looked up to, you know, growing up.
What did you say to your fans and to the world of MMA? What would be your words of inspiration for this fight coming up?
You know, you're debuting.
Just watch. Get comfortable and get you the food, you know, so you don't gotta get up, you know, and then just watch this fight, man. This fight on this card is gonna be, the whole card is crazy, you know, and I'm just thankful to be in this promotion at the right time. You know, the Bellator is doing such big things right now, and it's a complete 180. You look at this year, and you go back 1 year, and you would never would have thought that we're going to be where we're at right now. So, you know, I'm just anxious to see what happens next year.
And what would you say about your opponent?
That, you know, he's had a good reign as champion, you know, and the time has come, June 24th, you know, and I'm going to take that belt for sure, you know, but I'm not discrediting him in any way. You know, he's a champion, and like I say, you know, I almost respect the champion that lost his belt and come back and takes it back. You know, than a guy who's just held it. So, you know, he's a strong guy. He's tough. His technique is there. You know, and he's a great fighter. But you know, all fighters have that time, and unfortunately, my time is right now.
Lorenz, Larkin over there, he's actually transitioning into MMA from a boxer wrestler. Is it possible for maybe a boxer to an MMA fighter to transition into boxing? What do you make of that?
From an MMA guy to go into boxing?
Yeah.
I feel like you have to have some type of boxing background. You know what I mean? And you know, it all depends. You know, I'm pretty sure just like you know, I know boxing, in the beginning, you're just a pro boxer, you're going to have a lot of feedlies. You know what I mean? You're going to have a lot of give me fights, you know, and it just all depends on how you get matched up, you know. But if you're just going from a name in MMA, you know, a name that's recognized.
McGregor, for example.
Exactly, and then you're getting jumped to the forefront and fighting Mayweather. You know, it's not going to happen. You know, I'm more of a realist, and I know what Floyd brings to the table. And, you know, I guess anybody could say, you know, McGregor would have a puncher's chance. But as far as technique, no, it's not there. You know, just because he does what he does in MMA is totally different. Just like a boxer coming into MMA, you know what I mean? Like I've had conversations with random people, you know, like, what do you think of this person came into MMA? And they're like, no, they wouldn't win. You know, like I would whoop Tyson's ass. I would whoop Klitschko's ass, you know, in their prime, because I'm not gonna stand with them. You know what I mean? And I'm a striker. I'm gonna take his ass down. You know what I mean? And I'm gonna break him. You know what I mean? So that's why I don't understand. It's almost the same. You know, it'd be totally different if you had a boxing background. You know what I mean? And then you got into MMA and learned all that, and then went back. You know what I mean? But just, you know, it's not gonna happen.
How does that impact MMA? It impacts boxing. It kind of does a lot for Mayweather, but we're not sure what it does for boxing. But what does McGregor Mayweather do for MMA? Is that a good thing? Is it a bad thing?
As far as MMA, I don't know. I guess it brings a lot more attention, but for their promotion, you know, as far as him, it's good for him. You know what I mean? But it just shows that it's like this guy can do whatever the hell he wants. You know what I mean? But you guys just chill out and watch. You know what I mean? Don't even think you can ask me the same questions that this guy get. You know what I mean? So it's when I sit back and look at it, I'm just like, I don't know, man. Sometimes I just look like, all right, you guys some sheep, dude. You know what I mean? Like,
he was able to land on the top 25 Forbes list for 2016. Fighting Mayweather obviously put him higher up the listing. What does that mean, McGregor he's above Canelo in the Forbes list? What does that mean for MMA? That the pay-per-view platform is kind of shifting. You know, MMA sells more pay-per-view than boxing nowadays.
But the only thing is, you know, when it comes to boxing, in boxing, more people are willing to work together. You know what I mean? There's more promoters that have these fighters and these fighters that are able to work together and put together something. It's not the same in MMA, you know what I mean? So even if, when these pay-per-views do better than boxing, this fighter ain't getting paid as much as boxing, you know what I mean? And it's because they have that, you know, they don't really run anything, you know what I mean? And it shows that, you know. Even with McGregor, you know, thinking that he was gonna fight this fight without the UFC, you know, that's not gonna happen. He's under contract. You think they're gonna let that happen? No, you know. So I'm pretty sure Mayweather's numbers, McGregor's numbers probably did better than a bunch of boxing numbers. But he didn't get paid like those boxers. I can guarantee you that. He gets really good money, but he's not getting a part of that pay-per-view. Oh no, not at all.
Do you think MMA can get to that point eventually? Like, what would it take for an MMA fighter to get boxing numbers?
Well, I think it's getting to that because it's almost to the point where they can't really control McGregor anymore. They let him get to this point where, you know what I mean, that they can't really say these things anymore because he'll just turn around and do something that's not in contract and still make money. You know what I mean? That's the main thing with this whole MMA thing is there was a point where these fighters weren't making that good of money, so they can't really hold out. They can't really speak their mind and be like, all right, well, you ain't gonna fight me, whatever. You know, I won't fight for the whole year. You know, they don't have that. They don't have that ability to do that because these guys aren't getting paid a certain amount of dollars. You know what I mean? Other than in boxing, these guys getting paid millions of dollars, and if they don't like what, then they'll hold out. You know what I mean? And then it forces the promoter to be like, oh, okay, you know, we know he's not going to fight, so you know. And now McGregor's at that point where McGregor don't have to take a fight. You know, if McGregor wants, he can hold out for 2 years if he really wanted to, and still make good enough money to where he's not worried about it. So, and that was the thing is a lot of the fighters don't get that, and when you don't get that, you're forced to make dumb decisions off of financial problems. You know?
Where you said just a minute ago there that like fighters can be afraid to speak out. Were you surprised to hear what Demetrius Johnson said earlier this week?
And like another thing that I've addressed is like, so I feel like more fighters should do the free agency. And I said, as long as you know what your worth is, you know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it is a business, and if you know what you're worth, and if you know that you're valuable to somebody, then you can test free agency because, you know, as long as you know and it's out there, then somebody will pick you up. That's the same thing with Demetrius, you know. He knows he's valuable. You know what I mean? And it sucks because he's my favorite fighter. In MMA right now, he is my favorite fighter. He's, to me, the most pound for pound best fighter out there. But he doesn't get paid like most of the guys. You know what I mean? And it surprised me that he didn't even get pay-per-view points.
Right.
You know, it's ridiculous. You know, and I like Anderson. You know, Anderson was one of my favorite fighters, but Demetrius is, to me, better than anybody I've seen in MMA.
Sure.
You know what I mean? This is a guy that I look at and I cannot critique one thing. There's fights where I've seen Anderson, even in winning fashion, like, he might have a little weakness there. John Jones, he might have a little weakness there. But I cannot look at his fight and give anything. It's weird, you know what I mean? It's I'm glad he's at 25, you know what I mean? So it's crazy to look at a fight and just, you can't critique it. I'm just like, he did everything. Even when I think like, oh, he should probably, blah, 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 he does it. And I'm like, dude, you know what I mean?
The stuff that he was saying, did that like ring true to you? Did like UFC ever talk to you like that? Or did you ever hear any other stories about other fighters being treated that way? I'm not asking you to name names, I'm just curious.
I'm pretty sure other fighters got that. And with me, I never had like a one-on-one with UFC, you know what I mean, as far as talking to him and things like that. So about, you know, my career or contract or anything like that. So, you know, I mean, he wouldn't lie. You know, this would be a dumb decision to make some stuff up like that. So I'm pretty sure there's some truth to that story. But, you know, he deserves everything he asked for. You know, and I kind of skimmed through it, but it looked like he was asking for fair stuff, you know what I mean? That he should have pay-per-view points, you know what I mean? And he's... flyweights, when they first came to UFC, was always known as, it's fun to watch, but it's not exciting. You know what I mean? It's not, guys aren't getting finished. These are going 3 rounds, you know what I mean? And he's changed that to he's finishing his guys. He's finishing fights, you know what I mean? This flyweight that at a time where everybody was just looking at flyweights just to watch it, you know what I mean? For 3 rounds. and then have a decision. No, this guy's finishing his guys. He's cleared out his division. You know what I mean? And he's not getting treated right.
So what's been different for you now that you've been in Bellator for a couple months now? Like how have things changed for you in terms of how you're like interacting with the people who run the company as opposed to how things have been for you before?
It's a complete 180. I have a one-on-one with Scott. He calls me if he needs anything, or vice versa. And it's just a complete 180, man. It's I'm pretty sure I've probably got marketed more than in this fight than my whole career, in UFC, and it's disheartening to say that, you know what I mean? But it's the truth. I've never seen so much of me out there, without trying to sound like conceited or something like that, huh?
Did you ever have one of those at least?
I think so, maybe one time. I'm taking it that way. No, but it's crazy. Out of all the years, this has probably been the most that I've been marketed. So, everything happens for a reason. I'm glad that everything's happened how it happened, and I wouldn't change it, or I probably wouldn't be here right now. So.
And does all this put any more pressure on you to perform on June 24th? How do you handle that?
Well, you know what? I always look at it like, in this fight, there's no pressure for me. And it might sound weird to say, but I don't have the belt. You know what I mean? I fight the same way. I've got my style from just fighting. It's not like I force this. It's not like I'm trying to please the fans out there. It's just how I fight, period. So once I came to the realization of my style is just exciting because that's just how I fight. I can't force it, or anything else like that. And he has the belt. I'm the new guy. He's the guy who doesn't want the UFC guy to come in and take the belt. He has the pressure, not me. I'm pretty sure when I get the belt, then I'm gonna have some pressure, to keep the belt. But right now, it's just going in there and fighting for me.
So one final question now. What did you think of Rory's performance against Paul Daly?
It was good, but I just wish that Daly would have came more game. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not trying to discredit Rory's performance, but it was just like, God, I wish you would have sprung it a little more than that. You know what I mean? Just it wasn't a short notice fight. I don't know. I was more pissed off about his performance. Give him something a little more than that, just to run through you. I don't know.
Lawrence, you talked about DJ earlier. Do you feel like he's getting unfair criticism from the fans for not just taking the TJ fight?
Yeah, because it's like, at the end of the day, and these fans have to realize is, these guys, we want to put on the best fight. We want to, why would DJ duck TJ? You know what I mean? It's like, he's coming down to 25 for the first time. He's going to have the hard cut. He's never fought it, you know what I mean? So it's like, but it has to make sense for TJ, you know what I mean? A DJ, he's not, that's a big money fight, right? That's probably the most exciting, the most big money fight he's fought in flyweight. So why not get paid different? You know what I mean? Especially when he's not even getting pay-per-view points or anything like that. Why not? If they're gonna market it as this big fight, why not get compensated for it? Other fighters get compensated for it. You know what I mean? So it's like, why not him when he's the pound for pound best fighter right now?
If you win the belt on the 24th with a victory that day, you have the title. Is there a name that you're looking for your first title defense?
Well, I want the guy who's gonna, what do you say, take my health or whatever he said.
Was it Venom or?
No, it was Rory.
Rory, yeah.
Yeah, he said he's gonna take that. I'm pretty sure he said he's getting the next title shot. So I want the guy who said he's gonna take my health.
Did he kind of open the door for fighters to come over to Bellator? Rory, his signing with Bellator, all of a sudden there's more fighters coming over. and they're making, I think, greater money than they were with the UFC. Did it kind of open the door for?
I think he just.
I met him when he was like a 7.
I don't think he really opened the door. I think it's just this is becoming the time of like free agency. You know what I mean? As in any other time in MMA history, like now free agency is starting to become a thing. You know, and it's crazy to be right in the midst of this evolution of free agency. A while ago was like, what the hell's that? You know what I mean? There was no free agency. So now it's like the time of there's organizations out there who's fighting for you. You know what I mean? If they really want you, they're gonna fight for you. You know what I mean? So now it's evolving into this. You know, it's just that now this is the time.
Did you make the move at the right time, or you wish you had done it?
I felt like I made the move at the right time. You know what I mean? I think Bellator is it's becoming in its prime right now. You know, and I'm right in the midst of all the big moves that are happening. You know what I mean? Just like I was saying not so long ago, you would have looked at a year and a half ago in Bellator, you would have never thought about them fighting at Madison Square Garden. You know what I mean? On a big pay-per-view card like this. So, you know, I'm just glad to be right here at the right time. I feel like I'm at the right time. Right time, right place, right moment.
You were talking earlier about you feel like you've been promoted more for this fight than any fight in the past. We've heard we've heard Woodley complain about being promoted and everything. Is that a big problem? I think African Americans get like promoted more than
Yeah, because the thing is how.
Yeah, that's actually really good. The other question is,
if your fight's not getting promoted, it just becomes one of those things where some people might just watch the fight and be like, oh, I didn't know he was fighting. You know what I mean? Which is crazy, you know, so, you know, it makes a big difference. You know, it puts more eyes out there on your fight. You know, it allows you to be out there more and sell the fight. You know, it brings attention to the fight, you know, and it brings in people that are watching these things and get involved and they really want to watch your fight, you know, so it just brings a lot more attention to you.
And that's how you sell tickets and
yeah, there you go. And you get to buy, you see this?
I'm taking that home.
It's expensive. It's expensive.
Thank you, Lawrence. Appreciate you.
Lawrence, can I get a one-on-one?